don't know you, sis.
What ethnicity? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Welcome back to the podcast, or for the first people time, welcome to the podcast. This is the program opposing discussions, cases, allegations, streams, and trends. Nathaniel, how are we doing tonight?
Hey man, I'm full. My belly's full. I'm feeling good. God is good. So
Hey man, praise
good,
God. Fun story actually. This happened to me this week. Two fun stories. I told you one already with the cop, I did. That was funny. I went to go to Wingstop recently, and I saw a young lady walking by me. I said, "Oh wow, you look very nice." And she's like, "Do I look nice enough for you to buy my food?" I said,
Wow.
I was like, "What?"
Boldness.
Right? And I was like, I respected it. I was like, "Sure." She ended up buying like $20 worth of food at Wingstop, and I was like,
Wait.
"All right."
So, did she ask you that question and then order, or did she order? And then
No, she was like, Do I look good enough for you to buy my food?" I said, "Sure."
Wow.
And then she started ordering. Like, I just didn't know how to respond. Like, I've never heard.
Hey, you have not because you asked not.
The Lord knows. I just wasn't ready for that. I wasn't. And then
I
even
would
when
have said no personally.
you, no, you so. And the guy asked, he's like, "Why did you pay for it?" Like, man, so and sees the kindness, just let's my random actness. Yeah, there you go. Couldn't think of that.
Yeah.
Dude, speaking of which, watch that first episode, bro. I am mumbling like a mug. I hate it.
Mumble rapper.
Dude, literally, it's like I said last episode, it's the dyslexia, but it's not just that, it's the ADHD. I'm also medically diagnosed with that. So it's like the brain moves fast, but like it can't move at all because it's so weird. My brain both things fight for dominance in the head, and it's just it's.
Hey, you made it this far though, right?
I guess
Hey, that's a miracle.
No, yeah, but it was I've never had anyone. I don't even say just woman. I've never had anyone just be like, "You gonna buy this food?" I don't know you, sis.
What ethnicity? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's next month is it's Women's History Month, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love the boldness, man. I respect it, I should say. I respect it.
I don't know if I would respect it. I think I was just mainly intrigued, like at the fact. Yeah, maybe I did respect. That's why I bought it. And he was like, "Dude, I don't." He's like, "Are you trying to get her number?" I was like, "No, no." I just kind of. He's like, "Then why'd you do it?" I was like, "I can't tell you, bro. I have no idea. I just kind of did it. It was interesting." Anything? Oh, I'll tell you the second story too. I'll tell you guys. So I got pulled over because I had cut somebody off and stayed in the turning lane and went straight instead of turned. Wow. So they called the cops on me, and they literally were like, "Oh, this guy's drunk. He's swerving." So the guy comes up to me. I'm pumping gas. He comes around. He literally just sits in the Arcos parking lot. I was in Arcos. And he's literally just watching me. And I notice he's there, but I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I sit in my car a lot when I park. So maybe he's sitting, then he's getting out. So then right when I'm about to hop in the car, he's like, "Hey, real quick." And I was like, yeah, mind you, I'm in my uniform, right? I'm just coming from work. And he's like, "Just so you don't think that I'm like messing with you or profiling, Black History Month, whatever."
For sure. The worst time to pull over.
Worst time to pull over a black person. So he's like, "I want you to see this says this kind of car, this kind of license plate, swerving, walking around drunk, right?" And it's like, I've heard, but people call in cops all the time. They don't go to everything. But I guess because it said I was drunk, he's like, "Dude, I've been watching you. You're not drunk." And I was like, "I'm not at all. Fun fact, I don't drink."
Breathalyzer test.
No, I literally, I was like, "Do I have to take one?" Because I will. And I was like, "I'll do the nose to." I'm so glad he didn't ask me about the backwards Z to A because I can't do that frontwards without singing the song. So yeah, that'd be interesting. I don't know how people do it backwards. Like even completely sober, I think I can go ZY. That's about all I can do. And he was like, no, you're good. I promise. I can definitely tell you're not drunk. Yeah. And he was like, "Don't worry about it. Just let me see your license so I can just write this off." And he's like, "Yeah, false alarm. Guy's not drunk at all." And then he said some other code. Wrote down my thing, and I was on my merry way. And I was like, "That's interesting." So those body cams are like, they're like here. They're low and they're super inconspicuous, but they're still there. And it's like that was comforting. I'm not saying something would have happened. But you can never be too sure. He seemed like a right guy. I shook his hand. I went on my merry way. Yeah. It was.
I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, if you act right, things can go okay.
You know?
You can live to see the next day. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it isn't worth the struggle.
It's not. Is that a spider right there? You see it?
I do. It might be a cricket.
Is it? Yeah. There's a bug off screen, and it was really distracting me. I was gonna let it slide, but no, I'm not going to. I was
Is that ADHD kicking in?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it was, dude. As you're talking, I'm literally seeing it from my perfume, and I'm like, that's alive. Well, I don't know what it is, but it's alive.
It's great.
On to today's episode's topic. I have something I've been dealing with for a long time, right? And I've been thinking about this for a while, and it was brought back up to my attention: inevitability versus causality. It's like, what can anything truly be described as inevitable? And if something is inevitable, could one argue that you caused it? And if you did cause it, could you say, well, it was always going to happen? I just was there to speed the process along.
So we're talking like a Judas situation, right? Like
exactly like a Judas situation or Ninevites, right? God said Noah go. I mean, not said Noah, but God said Jonah go. He was like, right, crazy. I mean, you could argue that thing was inevitable too, No, Jonah go. I don't want to go. He went, preached. They got saved for a second. Still got killed later in the Bible, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, if I put you on the path to something and someone argues, oh, if it wasn't for Q, Nathaniel would have never been like that. But it's like, but Nathaniel's tendencies was leading to him that way. It's actually, what's that one philosophy? You put a criminal in their old neighborhood, they're bound to steal again. But it's like, wouldn't one argue because they were a criminal, they could still be a criminal?
I have no idea what philosophy that is. I mean, you're talking about the nature versus nurture?
Yeah, there you go. So there, I think that's what it's called. Yeah, that's where I'm going. Yeah. That's what I'm titled this episode. Nature versus nurture.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is I mean, so what is your question? Are we saying?
Which do you believe in?
Versus causality. I mean, is it possible to believe in both? Inevitability versus causality.
Okay, which do you believe? Is it possible to believe in both?
Because what I'm hearing is that, like, the inevitable can happen if you cause it to happen, right?
Okay.
Unless you're saying that the inevitable will happen whether you cause it or not. Is that what you're trying to get at?
Okay, I'll give a story. Give you a little example, right?
Okay.
No, I don't even make up a story. Just the Ninevites, right?
Right.
So they were terrible, horrible people.
Terrible.
When God told Jonah to go there, he was like, "Hey, tell them, deliver them, all that kind of stuff."
Right.
And he was like, "No." And like, when you think about it, he said no because he knew if he said something, they would change. I don't think he wanted them to. Like, I was always trying to think, I'm like, why? I mean, who cares if they don't change? I mean,
right.
But I think he's because he knew they were going to change, right? So he went there.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, it took him forever. He went there and then changed, right? Completely done with. But then later on in the Bible, they went right back to where they were.
Yeah.
God killed them for it, right? Couldn't one argue if it wasn't for Jonah coming back? Like, because, like, you can't just hear all that stuff. I mean, the animals went on a fast, right? So it's like, couldn't one argue that Jonah caused them to fall back? Because the Bible says for people who know, they get punished worse. Couldn't you say, oh, Jonah caused them to have a worse punishment?
Well, I mean, you have to remember, like, the time period between when Jonah said it and then their actual demise.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I mean, I don't know the actual time, but I'm pretty sure it's like at least a couple hundred years.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe
that's
shorter than that. But what I'm saying is that,
quick side note, everyone thinks everything happened a couple hundred years apart. That's not necessarily the case. Only time you hear like a definitive time, well, not only time, but one of the biggest like definitive time jumps was between the Old Testament and New Testament, 400 years.
I mean, for instance, the people in slavery in Egypt, that was a 400-year.
That was another 400, yeah.
Right, but between the time that they got there, Jacob, had, I should say Joseph had brought his family, his father Jacob and his brothers, and they multiply. I mean, so like all these time span, like another thing, people be like, oh, how come all these miracles happen back to back in the Bible?
Yeah.
Like, well, actually, all these things kind of happened like a span of many, many years. It wasn't just.
You're talking about Jesus' miracles? It was spanned 3 years.
No, not Jesus. I'm talking about like just miracles.
Oh, just miracles, yeah.
Like, but back to what I was saying, I feel like it's a little different because when Jonah came to that generation, I feel like that generation was saved, and that generation got right. But the inevitable in terms of the people ended up still happening, their demise.
Yeah.
But, the inevitable was bound to happen, but it's kind of like that's kind of a different story because one, it was showing how God's mercy works, right? That he will still show people mercy regardless of what he knows the outcome is going to be. He's still going to show you mercy.
Okay.
And the people who are willing to take it at that time are good, but the people as a whole may still fall. So the inevitable could happen, but I think Jonah's purpose was to highlight the mercy of God and to at least save as many people he could in that particular generation, you know?
I can agree with that to a certain extent. I don't know. I just feel like if something is inevitable, no matter what the cause or whatever was a contributing factor, can't really blame that. Like, it's like the whole, like, it's really nature versus nurture. If me personally, I think like your nature is always gonna win. And that's just how I don't want to say that's how I've been raised. That's not true.
Right.
But it's just how that's what I've always seen.
Right.
Like how someone's always acted. There, those little, like it's always the in between. Yeah, always the in betweens. Like you do something great, you did something great, but like somewhere here, like when you did that great thing, like you're really upset. Yeah, like what is that? I heard something like one time. It was like, I can't even think of what it was. There was some quote I heard, and I was like, I love that. Oh, the problem with wearing too many masks is at some point in time you're gonna take them all off. Because if you put on too many, they're just gonna all start falling off, and then boom, there you are. So it's like I always feel like nurture is always gonna. That's just like you call me a pessimist, call me a cynic. I feel like nurture is always gonna win.
I mean, with that logic, so if we're gonna go down this road, right?
Okay, go ahead.
Are we essentially saying that no matter what people do, whether good or bad, that's just the way that they, right? Let's say someone was born a certain way, right? Born with certain characteristics, certain mindsets, certain environments, whatever. You're saying that there's nothing they can do to change that? I'm
not saying there's nothing they can do to change that. I'm saying I believe no one should change. I believe you should evolve and grow. Okay. I believe no one should ever change. And I just had this conversation with somebody recently. They're like, wouldn't you say an apple changes? I was like, no. An apple becomes a tree. It does. That's not necessarily. An apple seed becomes a tree. I was like, it's not necessarily changing because if it was changing, it'd start producing oranges. I believe no one should change, but people should evolve to their best selves.
Even from a Christian's perspective?
Well, think about it this way. We're made in God's image and likeness, correct? That's the book. We're made in his image. So if we're all made in his image and likeness, wasn't our original characteristic nature to be?
Right. And we did change because of the fall and our sin. And now, because of the blood of Jesus, we're able to change back into.
Okay.
So, you're kind of right. We shouldn't have never changed from the
jump. You shouldn't have.
We should have evolved and grown from what God called us to originally, but we fell, and then we had to get, Jesus had to bring us back. It's like, hey, so I can see where you're coming from.
It's like, I don't know. I've always seen, like, even when people try their very hardest to be something they're not, like a little bit of them always seeps back in. It's like, now that's another conversation we had a while back. If someone's version of themselves, they'll always seep back. Could you love them unconditionally?
We did talk about that.
And it's kind of hard to talk about this because we agreed, but that's a not too long ago, me and Nathaniel and a few others had a conversation. Is it possible to love someone unconditionally? Yeah. And I said yes. Yeah. And they were saying no. You could only ever love people on the condition that they don't break trust and love.
Yes.
I know. We agreed. I 100%
said my brother, my friend, and my other friend. They were arguing the opposite, and they made some pretty solid points.
Amazing points.
But I came down to like as long as you have Christ in your life, I think that it's not you, it's the Christ in you loving you unconditionally, and that was my conclusion. But
so you guys can weigh in on yourselves. Please go in the comments. The question that they posed to us was, they gave two extremes. If your offspring was to harm your spouse, like unalive them, unfortunately, could you still say you completely and absolutely love your offspring? And if you do, that's because it's an unconditional love. But they're saying they love them on the condition that they don't essentially unalive people.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, you absolutely can, because like you have to allow people to make mistakes, grow, and all that stuff. And they were making good points.
The other argument was that you don't know if you unconditionally love someone until they do something to test your love.
Until a condition is brought up. Exactly. I agree.
But I did a reverse argument with that and was like, I should say rebuttal, And I said, when a person has an offspring, a child, that child can in no wise do anything at that moment to, persuade a person or a parent, to love them or not. It's just in that moment, I love you just for who you are. And that's an unconditional love, no matter what you do or don't do.
You're saying the parent unconditionally loves the child at that moment, or the child unconditionally loves the parent?
No, the parent. Let's say if a mother just gave birth to a child, that child the child just got here. It can't do anything.
It can't, It
has not done anything good or bad. It just exists, and its very existence alone is enough for the mom to
love. No, I agree. That's what it was. It was a riveting conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's questions like that kind of lead back to like, if nature is a thing, will you still love someone unconditionally? If nurture is a thing, like, and that so I was listening to a therapist online, and he was saying that what everyone thinks is if you yell and scream and tell somebody they have to change, they have to become something different, one day they will, and then it's like, see, I knew you could become this. I love you now, right? But he was saying when you just let people be what they are in themselves, they realize, man, this person's just accept me for me. Maybe I should try to become something more, And I sat back and I was like, I think I agree completely. It's like, I mean, not of course in like the extreme sense of just, just let you be a criminal. No, not in the extreme sense, but it's like if you're like a extreme, I don't want to say lazy person. If you're like an extremely unclean person, right? I can't be like, I don't want to associate with you. I don't want to be just known as the friend of the super unclean guy, right? Rather say that, it's like, hey, listen, we're never going to see eye to eye on what cleanliness is, but I'm not going to cut ties with you completely, because that makes, relationships, history over happiness, or technically happiness over history, I guess, in that sense. And at that point, you should absolutely just be like, you know what? This person accepts me for who I am. I should at least try to see their point of view, see their side of the hourglass,
Yeah, and I think there is obviously levels to this and different.
Yes, there's levels to this.
Obviously, that's why we have schools to teach kids we have church services so that we can be trained in the word, train up a child in the way that they should go. So, of course, you want to direct them into right morals and right things to do. But I think the person in and of themselves should not change for anybody. I'll give a good example. Something basic, not too crazy on any extreme, but I love watching movies. I love watching movies with my mom.
Love it.
My mom talks all the time during movies. It is my number one pet peeve when people talk during movies. And I'm talking about like she asks a lot of questions. Like,
I understand. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So I don't know these questions.
I'm learning all the information you have. Yeah. I have.
Yeah. So but I told her one day, I was like, Mom, I don't ever actually want you to stop talking during movies because it wouldn't be you. Like if you ever just stopped, or if you ever just, I said, it makes you you. It's what makes you unique. I said it may like frustrate me, get on my nerves, but I can't really see you not doing that because that's what makes you you, and I love that about you. So
you're a better man than me.
It's just like one of those things. It's just like I'm starting to get to this understanding. You're right. You don't want to change. Yeah. Because when people try to force change on themselves, like we all have our idiosyncrasies. We all have our strange, peculiar things about ourselves that I wouldn't want anyone want me to change about, certain, or want me to try to change.
Oh no, we've heard that you're amazing. I've been told I will never be Nathaniel.
No, you have.
No matter. Yes, I have. Yes, I have. I was specifically told, as well as him. I was specifically told, I will never be Nathaniel. And then I was like, I have some pretty good qualities. Like you've never used any of your good qualities. Specifically. It was the second you walked out of the room. Actually, I thought about that all night when I was told that.
I don't know why.
I hear you're an amazing guy. Like I said, you're a better man. You're still encouraging your mother to watch movies with you. I just told a common friend of ours, I was like, I would never watch a movie with a person, ever. No matter if I've seen it. I cannot. The last time I watched a movie with somebody was like in 2020. I think it was Shang-Chi was the last movie I watched with other people. But after that, I was like, no, absolutely not. I like movies way too much. Yeah. Even sometimes when it's like it's like, shut up. I'm trying to watch.
No, for sure. I mean, it's all out of humility. I don't know why people think I'm just this guy. I'm like, my mind.
Watch the first episode. I gave him a lot of accolades. The Bachelor's of the Bachelors. I got to become you one day, man. Yeah. I mean, I'm never going to school, but I got to become you one day.
No, you don't. Don't. You already told me that you never want to be me because.
Oh no, yeah. No, this man lives a complicated life. Like,
it could be. It's a blessing sometimes.
You notice how he said sometimes.
It's
You notice how he said it's not always a blessing to be me.
Hey, it's always a blessing.
You notice how he's stumbling over his words.
It's always a blessing, but it's difficult sometimes. But you gotta trust God through the process.
Oh, at least he's
Job
honest.
had it worse, right?
Job had it way worse.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you read Job 3? That man cries out before God. He is begging him just to like, please.
Because the first 2 chapters, he was like, not that bad, you know.
Yeah,
you know what,
man.
Lord gives, Lord take, he's like, saying all this.
Chapter 3, that man was thinking about giving it all up, man. I said, dang, I feel you,
brother. Who's to blame that man,
Bro, his wife was like, curse God and die. Nah, she gonna die with you.
Nah,
you die.
Nah, you die.
That's crazy. That was a crazy time to be alive. I
kind of running out of time.
Are we?
So, yeah, we got like 4 minutes left.
4 minutes. Any closing remarks? I'd like to. This was a.
Did we come to a conclusion about?
I was just about to say that.
I think things are inevitable. I think you can be the cause of that inevitability. However, every inevitable thing does not have to be caused by you. And back to the Judas situation. Someone was going to betray Jesus.
Someone had to.
Have to be Judas.
Oh, really quick. I heard it was on a TV show. It wasn't real. I heard on a TV show, he was like, oh, yeah, my favorite disciple is Judas because if it wasn't for Judas, Jesus wouldn't have died on the cross and he wouldn't have been able to die for my sins. And I said, that's an interesting point.
Wild.
Don't agree with that at all.
Son of Perdition is your favorite?
Yeah, I'm doing. I mean, dude, listen to that last name. It's scary. It's like, ugh,
I mean, wow.
Yeah,
that's kind of crazy. It's a crazy statement. It's like I was actually reading some of the comments in one of this YouTube posts.
I was like, not on one of our YouTube posts.
No. It was something. It was about the Last Supper, and they were kind
really
of in the same vein about they were hyping up Judas. I was like, have you ever read the Gospel of Judas, which is just blasphemy, by the way.
I didn't know where you were going with that.
No,
I thought you were going to give it accolades. I said,
no,
whoa,
absolutely
cut this
not.
episode off
Absolutely,
now.
Absolutely not. No, but they were kind of hyping that up, and it was like Jesus it was like a plan. He went to tell Judas, and they planned that the betrayal was going to happen. So Jesus wasn't really betrayed, and it was just crazy. So it's kind of crazy how a lot of people, hype this man up.
Yeah, a lot of people have a lot of hate on Christianity for no reason.
It is what it is. But yeah, inevitable things will happen.
Will happen, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've always been like, you can't blame someone for contributing to something because, like, what if that was one of those inevitable intersections? Or, as the young people say, a canon event.
That's right.
Love that.
You say that.
It's a canon event.
That's great.
I don't know. What do you guys think? Can you blame someone for helping cause something, or are certain things inevitable? I believe Nathaniel brought up a lot of good points. And I'm gonna look more into that.
We got a minute and 30 seconds. Let me ask you this question
Okay.
real quick.
Is it a yes or no?
No, it's
Okay, just go. Yeah.
So, serial killers, psychopaths,
Okay.
sociopath.
Mm-hmm. Those are actual medical things.
Those are medical things.
Mm-hmm.
If a sociopath or psychopath acts on their desires, if they're criminal, they're gonna go to jail.
Mm-hmm.
But the question is, if it's a mental disorder and they can't change, why do so many people blame them?
You're going based off of like legality versus morality. That's an interesting point. Yeah.
But it's still immoral that they do.
It's
still
is,
immoral
yeah.
thing to kill. And if it's a mental disorder, right,
then at that point I would say you need to, instead of I wouldn't say treat them like a criminal. I'd say treat them like a child. That sounds terrible. But like you would have to help
like mentally
nurture them. Yeah, you would have to nurture them. Like you wouldn't put them in a prison. You'd try to find them help. Right. That's a little different.
Still like because they're criminal, like Jeffrey Dahmer. This man was I don't know if he's a psychopath or sociopath, but
I think he was a sociopath.
Right, but that's medical. And people still go, and I'm like, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think what he did was horrible.
Terrible.
But in the sense of not being able to change, right? Or could he change? Could psychopaths or sociopaths? I can run out of time, but that's always a question I have in the back of my mind. Can people who have mental disorders like that really be blamed for their actions? Maybe we should leave it right there. And
yeah.
Later.
It's up to you guys. Thanks again for watching. Please like, subscribe. You got you ain't got to watch to, like, come on, man.
My fault.
Like, comment, subscribe, follow. And tell us what you think in the comments. That was an interesting way to end the episode. Really interesting.
Yeah.